Hey, Jeff,
Good evening.
you're looking colorful.
Got my Christmas shirt on tonight, Ken. Is the season.
I was guessing it was your beach shirt or something.
His Jimmy Buffett shirt.
That's it.
Jeff, how do all your blow up your decorative things survive the wind and snow? Are they all functional?
One of them's got a little problem, but I think I'm gonna be able to fix it. The other ones are okay. They're all screwed down. They don't
That's
have
good.
much of a chance to move.
You're gonna perform surgery?
I have had to do a little bit of suturing.
Oh, boy.
We had a couple of people drive by earlier who were a little angry that it wasn't up with the wind.
Oh. Oh, God. No good deed goes unpunished.
Oh, well, I'm aware.
Hi, Anna.
Hey, everybody.
All right, the gang's all here. Are we good, Neil?
We are good. Everything's set.
All right. Let me pull up my right to know spiel. All right, I will read the right to know law meeting checklist. As chair of the Hopkinton Select Board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Note there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm we're doing the following. A, providing public access to the meeting by phone with additional access by video or other electronic means. We're using Zoom this evening. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through Zoom, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing 1-646-558-8656. Meeting ID is 340-316-049. We've also provided a Zoom web address. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are on the Town of Hopkinton's website at www.hopkinton-newhampshire.gov and on the Town of Hopkinton's Facebook page. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, call 603-746-8242 or email townadmin@hopkinton-newhampshire.gov. D, adjourning the meeting if the public's unable to access the meeting. In the event the public's unable to access the meeting, we'll adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled. A few things about tonight. The meeting's being recorded. It'll be available to watch at a later time. The link will be on the town website. The select board's unmuted. Everyone else is muted. If you have a question during the meeting, you can use the raise your hand function, and we will also unmute folks during public comment. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. So we'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. Please state your presence and if anyone's in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law. All right, Sabrina Dunlap, I'm alone in my office. Ken?
Ken Traum, I'm alone.
Jeff?
Donahoe alone.
Anna?
Anna Wells, I'm alone.
Stephen?
Stephen Whitley, I'm here alone.
All right, thank you. All right, points of pride.
I have a couple tonight. First, I wanted to highlight, and actually Jeff and Anna may add to this, but Karen Robertson, the planning director, I know has been working with a small group and working on the zoning ordinance, and she's put a lot of time in getting everything that group had done and getting it ready for the planning board. So I wanted to thank her for that. And the other thing I wanted to note is all the work that the Chamber of Commerce did getting ready for Friday night and getting the village, the lights, helping to get people to get lights in the village. And I think given all the constraints we have these days, it turned out to be a great event and they worked really hard. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, Karen really worked extremely hard with Anna and myself and Greg Sagris. going through the table of uses and what's allowed and what's not and what definitions are. And, you know, we were more of a sounding board. She did all the hard work and I applaud her for it.
Yeah, I agree. She deserves to be recognized for sure. And I second also the recognition of the chamber, and in particular Meredith and BJ Lee, who did a fantastic job setting up for lighting the village on Friday. So huge thanks to them.
I just wanted to add to all those comments that, you know, we went on Friday night and it was a really, really nice thing to see. It's probably the only time we've kind of gathered as a community this year, it felt like. And so it was really a really well put together and well intentioned event, and it went off really, really well. So yeah, thank you.
Anyone else have anything for points of pride? Ken, you looked like you were going to say something.
No, as I always do, thanking Neil for something or other. And this time I want to thank him for helping me on the preparation for the Budget Committee presentation this coming Wednesday.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you both. So,
I have a quick one. I just want to recognize with all of our schools transitioning to remote this week, all of the teachers who work so hard for our kids every single day now have this extra, you know, hurdle to overcome and to transition to remote. And also just recognizing all of the parents out there who are dealing with, you know, sometimes very short notice, 12 hours notice to pivot to remote. And just want to express my support for all of the teachers out there who are going through this, as well as the parents and the kids. But again, like, we can get through this, we'll get through it together, and we just have to stay safe.
all right. Thank you, everybody. Next up is administrative. First, we have approval of the consent agenda.
Sure. I'll move we approve the consent agenda of December 7, 2020. And if Jeff's willing, I'll nominate him to go to sign.
I see a head nod from Jeff.
Yes, happy to do it.
Thank you.
Fun
We
on
will
you both.
also second this. Or I will. I'll second the approval of the consent agenda with Jeff kindly agreeing to sign. All right. So Sabrina's a yes. Ken,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Approval of the public meeting minutes from November 30th, 2020.
So moved.
I'll second
Second.
those. All right. Anna seconding. Anyone have any comments or edits? All right. Sabrina's yes. Ken,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we have approval of the non-public meeting minutes of November 30th, 2020, session 1.
Okay, I'll move such and note that the minutes are not sealed.
second,
All right.
We have the
Sabrina,
next one.
Sabrina's yes. Ken,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. Approval of the non-public meeting minutes of November 30th, 2020, session 2. It says session 1 on the agenda, but session 2.
Okay. Again, I'll move it and note that they're not sealed.
Second. I was going to give it to you, Jeff.
Gotta be quicker.
Sabrina's yes. Ken,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we have no appointments. So first up, we have old business, Bates Building rental.
Didn't have any new information on this, but I didn't know if you had a process in place for the decisions you need to make and whether you wanted it on the warrant for long-term leasing, or if you're going to talk to two villages, or I guess this is just a tickle item to remind you that there's
Yeah.
probably decisions to make in the not too distant future.
Yeah, thanks for that, Neil. This is one of those things that seemed very far away and now it's here. So I would have to dig through my memory / the minutes to recall how we left it when we talked about this like a couple months ago. I know for sure we talked about having this be put before the voters at town meeting for being able to enter into a long-term lease. And I think that we left it that we would then touch base maybe with the arts people. Does anyone else recall or have thoughts at least?
I thought they were offering to help in some kind of a presentation or explanation at town meeting. And I think they were also going to try to come up with a proposed higher rent that would be workable for them.
I do think we should have an article for for authority to enter into a long-term lease. I have mentioned this before. I don't think that article should be so specific that it names two villages or whatever entity they are by name. Because I want us as the board to retain that flexibility to make a decision that we feel is, in the best interest of the town. And obviously we have to navigate the public purpose kind of restriction that's still on that as well. But yeah, no, I absolutely think it should be on the warrant for the voters. I think they've spoken pretty clearly that they don't want that sold, and nor are they giving us the authority so far to go to court to get the public purpose restriction lifted. And if that's okay, I respect that's what their decision is, but I do think we should go forward with an article to lease it long term. And I don't recall the precise process, but I agree with what Ken said, that in my memory that they were going to come back to us because I think they were going to set up a 501c3 and kind of solicit, kind of get an idea of what they could get from donations and put together kind of a business plan almost to present to us. And perhaps, we should put on the calendar, and this is just a suggestion for us to talk about, them coming back or asking them when they would be ready to come back and have that conversation with us. But yeah, I do think they should come back.
It sounds logical.
Do we need authorization from the town to subdivide the property, or can we do that on our own?
All right.
No, it's just a matter of the funds. So is that something that we want to factor into sort of costs going forward in terms of setting rent going forward? In addition to like the boiler repair, the other sort of capital costs associated with the building, is this part of that?
I don't think so, because that is a benefit to us regardless of who is in that property. And so I think we need to do that no matter what.
Right. So then where's the money coming from?
Well, at our last meeting, I thought Neil mentioned that he believed that under the operating budget that we've currently proposed, that there'll be enough for us to subdivide that property.
For the 2021
Yeah.
budget. Great.
Yeah.
Out of select board expense.
We all pitch in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody who doesn't have seniority on the select board pitches in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, everybody.
No one's off the hook.
No.
Okay, that all makes sense. Thanks.
So it sounds like we can at least, Jeff, unless you have different thoughts on this, it sounds like we're probably okay with at least putting this before the voters in terms of being able to enter into a long-term lease.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a motion to put it on the warrant or what we need to do as a group. I'm sure Neil knows.
Yep, I'll put it on and you can vote on it when it's on the warrant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess I clearly need to give this some more thought, but I think the open issue was really, I think some of us felt okay with sort of this loose arrangement with the arts folks, and others, I think, maybe thought we should expand, potential entities to lease that property. And so if everyone can sort of think about process, like we didn't do like an RFP or anything the first time around because we were just sort of, the place was going to sit empty and this just worked out. But if people, I think, we have time to give this a little more thought in terms of coming up with a process that we think is fair and makes sense. So if everyone can do that and we can keep this on the radar, I don't think we need to figure it out tonight.
I guess the bigger question for us as a group is, do we want this authority to be limited to the Bates building? Or do we want to be able to do this once and lease excess town property?
And that's certainly an interesting thought. Jeff, is there any property you're thinking of specifically?
There is not any specific property I'm thinking of. It's just, I deal with the military, and they have a program where if a property isn't being used, they can lease it out for up to 55 years, depending on when they see the need for that property coming back potentially. And, rather than going through this every time a building comes up, the one that comes to mind, of course, is the rescue squad building. Although I hadn't thought about that until just now. Is some other department going to take that, or are we going to try to get someone to lease it from us? I don't know.
Am I not remembering correctly? I thought that the issue with Bates was really due to the deed restriction and not because it's town property, but am I wrong about that, Neil?
I think you can lease for a year, but if you're going to lease beyond a year, you would need town meeting approval
For any property.
for
Yeah.
any property.
Then I think Jeff's suggestion makes a lot of sense.
I can check if that's a doable thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
Yeah.
makes sense, but I wonder if it's logistically possible, if we're like allowed to
Right.
do that.
Sure.
Okay. So Neil, you'll look into whether or not that's something we can do as like a practical matter.
Yes, yeah, I'll check with town council on that.
Thanks.
And then it sounds like at the beginning of January, you want this back on. Do you want to invite anybody at that point, or do you want to have another discussion before anyone's invited in?
We have
Um,
one more December meeting, right?
You
That
do.
We could discuss it amongst ourselves and then invite them in January. Is that? Or do we have more to discuss? I mean, I know, Brady was asking the question, did we want to open it up, for an RFP process to other entities, or do we want to just carry on with Two Villages Art? That is a discussion that we can have for sure.
Well, I guess the question, Anna, is do we want to have that discussion before there's a vote? Or do we want to let the vote stand on its own regardless of who the tenant is? I don't know the
Right.
answer. I'm just,
Right.
Well, Stephen was mentioning that for the warrant article, it just simply be written in general, not naming Two Villages as the recipient. And I thought that made sense. So,
well, I forget who said it earlier about inviting them to help make the presentation. I'm not sure that's the right approach. I mean, this is our building, and I don't want to give the perception that we're relying on somebody else to get the warrant article passed for us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm wondering, I agree, I think this stands by itself. I'm just trying to think through, like, what do we do if and when, I mean, I guess it could be rejected. That's definitely possible. But assuming we think it has a good chance of being approved, then what do we want the process to be after March, whatever, 9th?
It makes sense
We're
to have it.
not- I don't think we're required to have the process established. We can continue them month to month while we figure out a process.
Yeah,
Right. I was going to say, I don't think we need to figure that out now or even prior to town meeting. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that, because this authority stands alone, separate of any of that.
Neil, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say a generic warrant article is good. Although the more information you can provide to voters, the more likely they are to support. If things are too vague, and I don't know what that means, it's sometimes hard to get voter support when they don't know sort of what the plan is. And that doesn't mean it has to be a specific plan, but maybe just a sense of that.
Well, I mean, I kind of am questioning a little bit, if our intent is to continue, the functions that are in the lower level of the Bates building with the supervisors and the vault, there's not, I don't really see a scenario in which we would just sort of hand over the building to someone for long term, say 55 years or however, if maybe it's not that long, maybe it's a 20-year term. But I think, I mean, I don't think that it negates going for the authority to have a long-term lease, but I think that we'll probably continue to go, year to year with interested parties. And I can foresee allowing the art society to be there indefinitely. I mean, as long as they can maintain their programs and their rents. And I'm not sure that it's necessarily dependent on whether we gain the authority to have a long-term lease. Does that make sense? I don't know where that leaves us. I don't think that changes anything necessarily for right now, but I think I see the two things as completely distinct, actually.
I do think that, and I hear what you're saying, Anna, and I think it would be nice to have the authority to go longer than a year. And I know that you're saying that you still want to do that because maybe there is a tenant that is out there that, for their own kind of bookkeeping purposes can't commit to a lease unless it's beyond a year. They need that certainty. And it would be nice to have the authority to do that if that sort of tenant came forward.
Yeah, I can see that scenario playing out as well. What were we thinking in terms of long-term? What does that mean?
I think it means more than a year.
Just anything more than a year?
Yeah.
So there's no upper limit either?
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
So I was just looking through my notes with Tom Donovan in the Charitable Trust Division. And I think sort of central to his thoughts on this was that if our intent is to be long-term, whether it's the Art Society or someone else, that we really should get approval because that's sort of within the spirit of the restrictions on this building. And then he also commented that something like a nonprofit arts program is probably more in line with the intent behind the building versus, doing like, I don't know, some business person. So just recalling that was my conversation with him on this. So I think we can leave it that we're in agreement on putting this before the voters for enabling us to do something beyond month to month. And then we don't need to tie that directly to an entity like the arts group. But certainly, that's an arrangement that could carry forward. And we don't need to decide now firmly what the process will be if we want to sort of expand the scope of potential people to lease that building. But yeah, so I think that's where we are now, if everyone's okay with, with leaving it there. Okay.
We may not need them to come back then until after the vote.
Yeah.
Sounds like. just to be clear, it doesn't sound like we need to invite them back then until after, assuming we get approval.
Yeah.
Because I think we did commit to them at least through town meeting. We
Yeah.
would continue to rent to them. I don't know that, I think that we said, and I could be wrong, you may have this in the minutes or notes, but that we said that we would maintain this rent through December, but I don't know that we said that we would continue it through, I thought.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right
could be
about that.
wrong.
No, I think you're right. It was either the end of the year or March.
My memory is that we said we'd go to town meeting because we were going to take it
Okay.
to the voters, but I could be wrong, but that's my memory.
I'll go back and check.
That was my recollection too, that when it got extended to March, so did the rent, but
Okay.
we can look that up.
I mean, that seems fair at this point, but
Yeah. 3 more months.
all right. Good. Seems like we're good to move on. All right. Thank you. Now that brings us to new business. We have the comprehensive right-of-way policy up first.
So this is the policy that you asked the town council to put together. And here it is in its complete form. So I guess, I don't know if there's a process you want to use to review it, or where you want to go with it from here.
Can you remind me what sparked this? I'm not recalling.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because I'm the new guy, I figure you all knew.
It largely had to do with the both utility right away and that, but with the telecommunication coming in with the new way they're doing things, this gives us a full range of, gives you full control over the right of way. And Stephen may be able to answer that
Yeah,
even better than.
From a really general kind of 60,000 foot perspective, anyone that's using the right of way, we can tax them for the use of that right of way, but we need to have an agreement with them that sets forth that we're expecting them to pay that tax. And in addition, anybody that's doing any sort of work in the road needs our permission also. And so I don't know the precise conversation between Neil and DTC, but I think the main impetus was making sure we have a process in place to tax people that are using the right of way so that we don't leave that money on the table year after year.
And they were doing this for multiple towns and asked if we wanted to be part of that, and you all said yes.
Stephen, does that go for all rights of way, including like class 5 and class 6 roads? Is that
Definitely class 5, because that's what we have the most of probably in town is class 5. And yeah, class 6 is still a public road also.
Okay.
It does not cover private roads. I know people, I've had a couple calls on that, so.
And I'm assuming not state or federal highways. We have a lot of those too.
So thank you for that refresher. I mean, I looked at it. How do people, this is basically a policy that we'll need to officially adopt, right, Neil?
Correct.
Okay.
Regulations, it would require a public hearing.
Okay.
And there were some yellow highlighted places specifically that the attorney recommended you made some decisions on.
I did not have a chance to read through it all. So if we get too far in the weeds, I hope we don't get too far in the weeds then.
So do people want to, now that we're aware of this, review it more carefully, and then I guess we could deal with it at our next meeting?
I agree.
I think that makes sense. I'd be curious, Neil, if you said that this draft has been provided to a number of different towns.
Uh, Something very similar to this, yes.
And do you know if those other towns have been adopting it or how they're proceeding?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to look at it and talk about it next time because it's quite lengthy, actually.
Yeah.
There's no time frame that this has to be done by. This is so you have.
All right, great. Then if everybody could take a look at that, some light reading, then we can
Do
discuss.
we currently have nothing addressing these issues right now?
We did the poll license update a few years ago, but no, there is not really a good policy, and we've had work done in the road. It would be helpful to have. I'm not saying this is necessarily it, but we should have something in place, especially when people need to cross the road or
Yeah, that
something.
it does seem important to have. So good.
All right. Thanks for that, Neil. So next is year-to-date financials.
Sure, you have those. I will highlight. There we go. So as far as revenue, not really. I really don't have much to highlight. Clearly, other from state includes the COVID grants. As we've kind of gone through all the budgets and stuff anyways over the last few weeks. Clearly, planning and building fees are above where we had anticipated. Transfer station income, the pay by bag transfer was made, so that's why that will come in where it is. So there's really not much in revenue to highlight. And in expenses, I would note that under personnel, about 65,000 of that money remaining is health insurance fees that won't have to be paid, most largely because of the premium holiday, the return of surplus from Health Trust. The cemetery reimbursement is coming. The expense under emergency management is the grants. Cap is done. It's at 100%. It's done for the year, and bonds are done. So we're about where we have been, and that seems to be a okay thing.
In terms of a very minimal number of questions, Neil, under solid waste engineering fees, we're running much lower than budgeted. Are they coming at year end, or we're not going to incur them this year?
It looks like we probably will not incur all of those this year.
But next year we'll be back to incurring them.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot depends on the year and the testing requirements for certain years. Also, the new PFAS requirements are adding to that cost.
And do you know if the pilot payment from St. Methodius has come in yet?
It had not as of today. There are other pilot payments that came in December, so that's a little better, but the big one from St. Methodius has not come in.
Yeah. And that's like 100,000 or something in that range?
Pretty close to it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So we're still looking at the roughly 149,000 of expenses being below budget for 2020.
Correct.
All right, anything else on the financials, or should we move to town administrator updates? All right. Anything else for us, Neil?
Not a lot. I'll just note that the Senior Rec Council has been looking at some flooring for the Slusher Center. Out of donations they've received, a couple of people who have passed away had their memorial funds go there. So they're looking at that. A lot of this week, since I guess just a week since we've met, prepping for the budget committee tomorrow, Wednesday night. So that is happening. I think the PowerPoint presentation is complete basically at this point, and Ken's all ready to go. So that will be this week's big thing.
If I could jump on the presentation item, and again, thank you, Neil. I had asked Neil if he could put together a slide for that presentation of the, in effect, the cost shifting or the value of the additional, the higher exemptions that were approved at town meeting this summer, where we went up into the low-income elderly exemptions, et cetera. And the value of that change is about $117,000 in total, which is over a 2% impact on the tax rate. Just, I'm just informing you, I still think it was a good thing to do, but just so people are aware of it. And that's a slide I'll be presenting at the budget committee meeting. Okay.
Thanks for that. Ken, is the meeting at 5:30 on Wednesday?
Yes,
Okay. I'll try to tune in.
and I'm counting on Anna being there while she's cooking dinner.
Only if you'll respond to my email right away.
Neil, you said some info about town meeting.
Yeah.
Can you discuss that today?
I'll just note, if you want, under other, this is the sort of guidelines that NHMA has put in. There's some things, it's using the same statute that we used last year. There were some things that I noted that I would point out that maybe different, maybe not different than what it said last year, but some changes. Let me look. It's the two sessions. The first session to present everything, then the time for the questions, then the session 2 where the board reviews all that. Last year we had a third session at the end, but you don't need to do that. I don't think. Both of those sessions have, you can either have public comment or not. The recommendation in there was that a sample ballot be able to be printed by people, but that a real ballot be provided at the drive-through. So that's something that's different from before.
Why are they doing that? I mean, the town meeting warrant has a lot of questions on it. And it's, I saw drive-through voting in March, which I'm very excited about. And it just seems like that's going to create significant backups while people sit in their car in the parking lot and answer 27 questions.
Yeah, I agree.
Are they saying don't provide a ballot that you can print at home? They're saying don't provide the ballot to print at home.
They're saying the statute itself says you shall provide a ballot. Their interpretation is that would be a sample ballot that they could fill out and bring with them, but the ballot that they actually voted on, you would give to them there. Now,
yeah, that's going to cause issues for sure.
So,
yeah.
They are suggesting ideally it be held on the Tuesday, the March 9th. But it's clear that we don't have to have the Tuesday election, that it can all be done at once. And probably should all be done at once. There would be the official ballot, which could be done way in advance with the officers and zoning amendments. And then the second ballot is the alternative ballot, which has all the warrant articles that would normally be acted on at the Saturday meeting. Some of my questions are, okay, if this is taking the place of the actual Tuesday voting too, can people register at the polls? Do you have to be open the regular poll hours, the 7 to 7, even though it's a drive-through? So those are some of the things to get clarified. One of my thoughts is that you may want to consider a different location, that if we're doing drive-through, maybe it should be at the Slusher Center where people could drive all the way around and there's more room to get people out. It may confuse people, it may not. But I think there are options you could look at. The board sets the polling location. So there's some of my questions, just having received this on over the weekend, and then so.
I assume our esteemed moderator has a copy of that.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, Sarah had provided it to the committee that Norm and I and Neil and Steve Chamberlain are part of. So we're going to be meeting as a committee again Thursday, and I guess we'll be talking about this guidance and how to go forward. The one thing that I had seen there, I'll read it. Therefore, it is recommended that the drive-up voting session for traditional town or school district meeting would be March 9 or May 11. So, with that, I was thinking, well, maybe we have the vote on everything as far as the town officers and school officers and the town business on March 9th. And then as far as the town's concerned, we're done.
I think though the school would do their own.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying the town as opposed
But
to the school.
their own officers too would be part of their ballot, not part of the town ballot. They have their separate ballot anyways, and it's really more for the convenience of voters that anything that those are combined. And technically, the school moderator appoints the town moderator, an assistant school moderator for the school part. So I would think you would keep those two separate. The school would do theirs, their complete 2 ballots, and the town would do its 2 ballots.
So theoretically, we could have on March 9 drive-up vote just on town officers and town warrant, and then 2 weeks later or whatever, the school could do the same.
Yes.
That's awful hard on Gene's team.
You mean because of the weather or because just 2 weeks?
Well, doing it twice, probably in bad weather both times.
Mhm.
It does say that it says that the governing body, the select board, sets the time of the meeting. And then it goes on to say, but they're recommending. So I think there is room there. And clearly when you have a school district, you won't have both at the same time. You've got to cooperate enough to make those all coordinate. The other thing I note is they made it very clear that every voter must receive a mailing, not every household. So we're going to have to do twice as many mailings 7 days in advance, because it has to go. It changes everything, because you can't do just every address. You have to actually put people's name and address on there. The good thing is we shouldn't have just 2 days to get that done. We should have plenty of time. Once everything's set, we should have plenty of time to prepare that in advance.
How did we last year? How did we address to the residents? How did we do that last year?
We did it the same as the school did it too. We did it to every address in town.
But did we list, what I'm wondering is, could it still be one mailing to a single house, but the envelope is addressed to all the voters in that house? So it's still one mailing, one postage stamp.
You could check on that. From what this said, it didn't seem like that was a doable.
Yeah, I know.
That's one of the questions I have too, because that just seems crazy to mail 4 to a house.
And I don't know. Well, I wonder what is the distinction between having every voter have their own envelope and addressing it to all the voters in a household. I don't know if there is one, but yeah.
In our household, we would prefer less paper and share the mailing. I don't know what others would do.
Definitely agree.
If the options from the town perspective are March 9th or a later date, what's the thought of the board? Do you have a preference at this point? I'm just thinking I'd like to get an understanding before having that meeting on Thursday.
My personal preference would be that either the town does everything on probably March 9th, or that we work with a school district to try to combine ours with theirs to the extent that's practical.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm in favor of getting it done.
I didn't catch you, Jeff.
I'm in favor of getting it done.
Okay, great. Thank
March
you.
9th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And to Stephen's idea of coordinating with the schools as much as possible. I have not thought it through and what that actually means and the ramifications of that. But I think that's a smart thing to think about too.
Well, that's part of the reason we have this committee we're working with the schools.
Well, if last year or this year, I guess, taught us anything, is that we might need another meeting. We might
Yes.
need to vote again.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but we might.
Yeah, and I mean,
as much as we can
and I
streamline.
know that you guys are already doing this, Ken, but I mean, to Jeff's point, I mean, you just want to be careful about Gene and the moderators and making sure we're not, and Carol, not overwhelming all those town officers and employees, because yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole lot.
Yeah. And just to be clear, our committee sort of stalled because we were waiting for this municipal association guidance that we just, got, as Neil mentioned, Friday.
One of the things it seemed a little unclear before whether we would still have to have the Tuesday regular election and then the business section. So at least we know that can all be combined, which should help alleviate one day in there at least.
Okay. Well, thank you for your thoughts at this point.
Thanks for serving on that little committee, Ken. So we don't need to take any action at this point, correct, Neil?
I think Ken will come back with what the committee works out for timing and stuff.
Okay, great. Did you have anything else under administrator updates?
Nope,
Okay.
that covers it.
Does anyone else have anything for other? So I guess we've got 3 people, so we can do public comment, and I think that's it for us. So our 3 attendees, if anyone wants to comment, now's your chance. We have a hand.
No.
Hi, Candy.
Hi, Candy Garvin, 515 Boundary Road. I have two hands up, but you can't see it. I agree with Jeff, get her done. It will be crazy to try to get 2 or 3 or 4 sets, depending on how the vote goes, with volunteers. I think we will get people who are vote drive-by weary. How's that? So if there is anything, I don't know who makes up some of those laws you're talking about, Neil, because some of them are just stupid. I would go on record for that. Stupid. But anyway, they just don't take into consideration weather in New England, the COVID, and you have a certain number of people you could draw from. Our community is great about volunteering, but let's get real. So however you can do that, I don't know if Jean is attending or not. She's the brains of our little committee, so I'm sure we can talk about it. But between the three of us, we kind of come up with a few good ideas. Maybe we should run for state something, but anyway.
Yeah.
That I have taken up enough of your time. Get it done. However I can help, let me know.
Thank you, Candy. We
Thanks, Candy.
appreciate it.
And
Candy.
Sabrina, I still have the hot tub.
Oh, no, that was for me.
I mean, yeah, Anna. I'm looking at you and
All right.
Sabrina.
Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Candy. All right. So, thank you everyone who joined us tonight. This is like the olden days when our meetings were like a normal length and we're not going to see each other for 2 weeks. What are we going to do?
I can think of a million things.
You could join,
Somehow I'll survive.
you could join the EDC meeting, which is next Monday
Yeah, I
night.
was going to say I have plenty. I'm sure we all do. I have plenty of meetings to take up the nights.
Or the budget committee.
Yeah.
I'd join the EDC meeting, but that would be too many selectmen, so I'll stay home.
All right. Well, I think that does it. So everybody stay safe. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody. We'll see
I
you
move
next
we
week.
adjourn.
Oh,
I
yeah.
second.
Thank you, Anna.
Sorry, my bad. Adjourn. I'll second. I'm a yes. Ken,
Yes.
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.